Happy birthday, Toronto. I'm Mark McAllister here at Nathan Phillips Square. We certainly have plenty to celebrate. Over 185 years. Right now, our city continues to grow. We have a very strong multicultural identity. But does that identity include enough recognition for our Indigenous history going back thousands of years? Tonight, we explore that question a little bit with what is being done in the city, like the medicine wheel here on the Toronto sign, and what more needs to be done. There are symbols scattered throughout the city. At Inukshuk on the waterfront, street signs with original names near Spadina, all considered to be a recognition of Toronto's Indigenous history. Ask the elders, though, and it's just the beginning.
If you're going to take on reconciliation that's going to be part of your platform, whether you're the country, the province, or the city, you have to have markers. You can't just say, we're doing this, and then have some pretty pictures.
Toronto may be celebrating an anniversary, but those aware of the history behind the lands known as Tukaronto are looking for more as part of the city's truth and reconciliation efforts. Heritage Toronto, for example, just completed its latest report and suggests education is important.
With Truth and Reconciliation Commission and the TRC report, it's been challenging to get a lot of traction around that. So certainly looking for more opportunities, to kind of create that snowball effect.
There are plans for the Indian Residential School Survival Project at Nathan Phillips Square, being led by the Toronto Council Fire Cultural Centre, to provide space for recognition, including a turtle sculpture currently in the works.
How much learning needs to take place in the city of Toronto?
Lots. I think the education system is not doing as good of a job as it should be. I think civil society can do a lot more.
Last year, the City of Toronto established its Indigenous Affairs Office to further its efforts in recognizing the needs of the community today. What more can the city do?
We have to, number one, be able to recognize that local Indigenous communities have a number of initiatives and priorities. Some of it is very much projects and initiatives that the city is already working on, such as affordable housing. Certainly it's a start. I would never stop there. I think that that's the very minimum we can do. Symbols and recognition is important, but there is such richness in Indigenous history and culture. Much of it has been erased.
Meanwhile, symbolism pops up and raises questions. Things like moccasin identifiers carved into the rock at Trillium Park near Ontario Place, honoring the heritage of the Mississaugas of New Credit. Is it enough? Leave it to the chief to tell us.
Start thinking about the fact that this land was covered with many Indigenous nations many thousands of years before that. This history is not short-term, this history is long. And it's something they should learn and be proud of, because this will be part of their history and their children's history.
Be sure to stick around. We're going to have more of that one-on-one conversation with Chief Laforme in just a few minutes. 185 years, or hashtag TO185 if you're celebrating on social media. That is what's going on in Toronto this week. But tonight we are exploring the idea that perhaps we should be celebrating more to that in our Indigenous culture and our heritage as well, and going back thousands of years. Today I sat down with Chief Stacey Laforme to explore the issue.
If you're going to take on reconciliation that's going to be part of your platform, whether you're the country, the province, or the city, you have to have markers. You can't just say, we're doing this, and then have some pretty pictures. You have to have markers that are measurable and things that we can go back and look at 10 years and say, look how far we've come, or haven't. Now, the city of Toronto is certainly smaller than the government of Canada, but where's your long-term strategy? Where's your Centre for the Indigenous People to gather, have those types of meetings? Yes, the Indigenous office can give some voice to Indigenous people, but to me that's part of the putting band-aids on things. How do we fix the big issues like children in care, homelessness, the lack of housing, those types of things?
Right. So the symbolism that exists or that has been thrown out there is far from what you're looking for.
It's good. It's a start. It's a conversation.
If you needed to, in a very basic way, try and educate people about the history of First Nations in this city, what are the first things you tell people?
Start thinking about the fact that this land was covered with many Indigenous nations many thousands of years before that. This history is not short-term. This history is long. And it's something they should learn and be proud of, because this will be part of their history and their children's history. It's not. It's not like this is the Indigenous history. Okay, this is Canadian. We start here. We don't start over at certain junctures. This is all our history. And so it's important to start learning that ideology.
That's probably the best way to put the exclamation point on our coverage tonight, is that the chief wants everybody to be able to celebrate not just 185, but thousands of years before that. It's something that we can all be a part of.